Now, Mikel Arteta and the technical staff at Arsenal are not stupid. They're consistently trying to improve this football club. They're going around acquiring targets and looking at players for next season that could potentially improve and enhance what we have already at the Emirates. And they know who they want. Nonetheless, there's still numerous newspaper reports linking us with players across several positions. A simple Google search will display several names being drawn up, whether that's a central midfielder, a right winger, a striker, etc. On the topic of strikers, we've actually been linked with a striker personally I am quite fond of. Benjamin Sesko, the Slovenian international. At 20 years of age, he has the experience levels that some significantly older than him have not gone through. And in many ways, that makes him a veteran. At 20 years of age, and it's easy to forget his age, people, he has played 27 times for his country, won the Australian Bundesliga 4 times, won the Cup once, was named 2022 Slovenian Player of the Year, is actually both the youngest goal scorer and debutant for his country, and even played at Euro 2020. Now, you would have just seen some clips of him in action against Real Madrid for his current club, RB Leipzig. On the surface of it, did he do anything eye-catching, headline-worthy, or anything of real significance in that game? No, he didn't. It was just a competent performance. But I mentioned that to mention this. For all the ability and quality a player can have, it's about temperament. And I feel against Real Madrid, which winning, let alone showing up and competing and not looking out of place, is a very difficult task to do. I think the 20-year-old more than equipped himself in that regard, and it's a case of temperament. It doesn't matter how many goals you could score, your ability, your range of passing, and all those other aspects. If you don't have the temperament, that level-headedness and belief to believe you can make a difference, then it's all rather pointless. Me personally, I think it showed me enough. Now, admittedly, I'm a massive fan of Sesko. I think he's very raw, and I think with that will come spells where he might score and spells where he doesn't, as he makes trials and tribulations to obviously matching the potential that some people say he has. He's got 20 Champions League appearances to his name. He's played 157 times across his career for 3 clubs. He has gone through a drought this season. There was a period where he had no goals in 8, but in his last 8 games, he actually has 4 goals and 2 assists, which shows you the trials and tribulations young players have to make. I believe in his temperament. I think he's got the real potential to be a problem for defenders up and down the country in the Premier League. And obviously, if Arsenal keep progressing in the Champions League and qualifying for the competition, then evidently that. It's been no easy feat of his. He's had to join a new club and adapt to the necessary surroundings and the uptake in the level. And he's obviously gone against someone like Openda, who's kept him out the side. But since then, he seems to have found his feet for his current employers, which he just joined recently. And he could be on the move again if reports are true. I believe he's got everything to be a great modern forward. I think, it's taking him a while to adapt and show his quality, but he's strong, he's fast, he works the channels, he's a good dribbler. I prefer, in his case, carrier of a ball, like he's able to drop deep, carry the ball, get his team further up the field and win necessary fouls. I think his link-up play could improve, but I think his link-up play is very good. As I said, I think he's got the raw capabilities to be a Premier League powerhouse and a monster and a goal scorer, if I'm completely honest with you. I really, really like this footballer, and I believe him at 20 years of age, evidently for this Arsenal team, he'll be allowed to obviously complement the likes of Kai Havertz, Bukayo Saka, Gabriel Jesus, Trossard, Martinelli, and what have you. Equally, as stated, he'll be able to grow with the players. As you know, the core nucleus of our club are in their early 20s to mid-20s, and they're learning on the job like our manager, and I think he fits the billing. Now, you would imagine at some point, Benjamin Sesko is set to join a bigger club in Europe across one of the big top 5 leagues, or, he could even join Bayern Munich one day. But you'd imagine he'd be sold on for big money sooner rather than later. In a day and age where, again, to us normal football fans, there isn't actually, a wide variety range of widespread strikers that we look at and think, wow, some people even argue the number 9 or the out-and-out traditional striker is dead / currently dying. And I think that's true to a degree. I still think there's goal scorers out there, still think there's strikers. Half the players linked with Arsenal and other clubs, they had to have started somewhere. But as we've discussed during this striker series. It is a bit of a catch-22 being a forward. You could score 20, 30, even a million goals, and people say, what is your heat map saying? What is your assist saying? What is your link-up play saying? And I do think the modern striker has to be able to do all of them. And I think he's got the raw capabilities to do such. At 20 years of age, you cannot expect him to be the finished article. But I think he's very intelligent. As discussed earlier, I think his footballing IQ is very high. I think his movement is intelligent. I think there's several raw elements in his game as discussed. But I think there's a lot to like about him, man. I think he's a physical specimen. I love his athleticism. I think his dribbling, whether it's through wide or central areas, gives him the ability to stretch defenses and gets his team further up the pitch, and also allows him to draw fouls. I think he is a cold-hearted killer in front of goal with the capacity to become a better striker in that regards. At 6'5", he's deceivingly quick for a big man as well. His top speed is up there with Kylian Mbappe, and I just think he was born to score goals. I can't imagine his current employers want to let him go, anytime soon, because they've just signed him and they could probably sell him for, anything up to 100 million in this day and age. Many Arsenal fans will sit there, rightly so, and say we need someone more seasoned. But then when you look at it, I know Gyökeres, who I've done a video on, is the man of the moment. Osimhen's obviously a great striker with remaining doubts over his injury record and if he could do it in the Premier League. But if you're not going to get the Ivan Tonys, the Gyökereses and people of that ilk, surely it makes sense to gamble on a star of tomorrow of sorts, especially with Mikel Arteta's track record of improving damn right every player in his team, especially the younger ones, if I'm completely honest. At 6'5", he also presents a serious threat in aerial duels as well. And he one thing I like about him, it sounds silly, but he finishes with both feet, people. If it's on his left, he'll put it on his left. He makes quick decisions. And it's going to sound stupid as well, but I genuinely think he's a very humble individual. And there's a lot of humility in how he plays football. He'll work his socks off for his teammates. He doesn't come off as someone that thinks he's better than anyone, and he's willing to put in a shift. Now, how you carry yourself, what you're like as a person, as we know under Mikel Arteta, that is very important. And again, he's going through trials and tribulations. He's not a man that I think straight off the bat is going to score the goals we necessarily need, in which some of you will say, what we do in there. But in games where we need a plan B, a rotational option with the ability to grow and develop, then I think we can look no further, if I'm completely honest with you. Again, he has dealt with / dealing with a lot of pressure on his shoulders, really from the age of 16, 17. He's been billed as this next big talent. And some of you lot remember his exploits in the Youth League, the youth version of the Champions League, for those who don't watch, in which he really impressed in a 7-2 victory against Napoli. He has drawn a lot of comparisons with a lot of strikers on the continent, which we'll get into in just a sec. But for me, it's almost a no-brainer. I think every striker presents a risk, but I think Benjamin Sesko could be an educated gamble, if I'm honest with you, with a lot of upside in the short, medium and long-term future at Arsenal Football Club. I think he would work a treat with Odegaard, Martinelli, Saka and whatever have you, and crucially under Mikel Arteta, because at 20 years of age, once again, folks, you're not going to be the finished article. I can't imagine you guys don't know, but at this point, yes, we want a striker who's going to score goals, but it's worth reminding ourselves of what Mikel Arteta demands from his strikers. Of course, we'd love a striker who scores goals once again, but if needing to score goals or be a consistent bagsman was what would make Mikel Arteta start you and build his system around you and utilize you, then you could argue for all Kai Havertz's qualities that he's shown at the Emirates since signing, for what we know of Gabriel Jesus and also Trossard, and you could throw Mr. Eddie Nketiah, who's on the peripheral things, they wouldn't be the first choices. Now we know we need goals. Goals win games. It turns defeats into draws, draws into victories, 3 points on the board. It gives our team another gear, another dynamic for the opponents to keep guessing, and it makes us stronger along our quest. A lot of Arsenal fans say we don't need a goal scorer, we don't need a striker, and I think they're right and wrong. Me personally, I think we need a striker, but I think there's every logic with the goals we have scored at this point this season and also last year. Maybe that's for another video in itself, really, and maybe that's one for the creative juices to flow. But again, it's all about the other facet. It's what they normally say. It is also about what you're doing when you're not scoring goals. And apart from Haaland, whose general play has improved, how many strikers do you see out there that really are consistent bagsmen or not demanded to necessarily affect the game in other ways without necessarily scoring? Now, evidently, where you look at his his progressive passes, his pass completion, and his passes attempted. I think obviously he's raw and that could improve, but his carries, his take-ons, his touches in the attacking penalty box could improve him if he's in a side that's on the front foot, which respectfully to Leipzig, the Bundesliga is Bayern Munich's bread and butter. Yes, Leverkusen are doing their thing, but they're a glorified Arsenal team of previous years where we used to finish fourth. You could argue his statistics that need improving and the things that he's good at, as well as the capacity to score goals for himself individually, would be enhanced, joining one of the most attractive projects in world football currently and one of the best attacking sides in the Premier League and in Europe, really and truly. So there's a lot of things that could improve. His progressive passes, his passing in general, his progressive carries are not bad, but they could be better. His attempted passes, maybe his general play in terms of assists. But where you look at his XG for non-penalty goals, he's in the 76th percentile. He's in the 85th percentile where you consider non-penalty goals full stop. And then you look at clearances of blocks, of tackles, of interceptions, and crucially aerial duels won. There's a lot to like about the individual. On the topic of aerial duels, he's won 25 and he's made 133 tackles. Now, again, if you were to just look at the current attackers at Arsenal Football Club, where tackles are concerned, it's not a strength of Bukayo Saka's, and obviously our team is on the front foot and dominating games in other capacities, so we're not really needing to do that. But Bukayo Saka has 49, Jesus has 19, Trossard has 16, and Eddie Nketiah is fourth with 12. Now, again, with the exception of Bukayo Saka, all of the other three names mentioned are on the peripheral things. Jesus due to injury, Trossard is more of a rotational option, and currently Eddie Nketiah's stock has fallen. It's well known Arsenal are a danger from set pieces, and I think many teams are going to follow our wave in trying to exploit and be innovative around set pieces and dead ball scenarios. But when you look at the aerial headers he's won, that can obviously help you defensively, but on the offense, in attack, we've scored 16. He could give us another gear. The man is 6'5", people. As I said, he's a physical specimen. And at 50 odd million euros, I personally think it's a no-brainer now. I don't know any more than Mikel Arteta. I'm sure I'll be happy with any attacker he brings in the summer and beyond. But for me, I believe that's the case. And just off topic, as I'm recording this, when you actually look at it, who has Mikel Arteta really spent significant money on where the attackers are concerned? Yes, you could argue Kai Havertz is now currently playing up front and he cost 65 million, and 45 million quid on Jesus isn't the worst. But where is Mikel Arteta's looked to sign game changers or big money price tags? It hasn't necessarily been the players in the final third. You know, Martinelli was here before. Saka's gone on from strength to the academy. Odegaard was 30 million. And obviously, Jesus is probably the most expensive at 45 million. Trossard didn't cost that much. Neither did Eddie Nketiah because he came through the academy. And Havertz has probably found himself in a byproduct. So is it time for Mikel Arteta to spend significantly in the final third? He's shown his willingness, you know, the failed pursuits of Vlahovic, Rafinha, Mudryk, etc., etc. Pedro Neto also reflect that. You know, Declan Rice was signed for 105 million. Kai Havertz was signed as a multifunctional man for 65 million. Thomas Partey cost 45 million. So I do think he's going to spend significantly at some point on an upgrade or an irresistible player in the final third. But if he signed this individual for 50 odd million euros, it's a no-brainer. And in today's day and age, if Arteta could only improve him marginally, and for argument's sake, he doesn't hit the heights projected of himself if he signed for the club, you'd imagine we'd make a decent profit on the individual. Based on reports, in this day and age, we all know if we are to find the striker, whether they're in their early 20s in Sesko's case or more seasoned, they're going to cost a lot of money. Regardless of if you sign a player for £1 or 100 million quid, they all present risks. We don't 100% know what is the answer. I'd imagine Arteta, Edu and Co, unfortunately for Arsenal fans, know exactly what they want to do in the market. But I honestly believe, you know, you can't sit here and say there's a striker that 100% convinces you on the market. Keyword 100%. I like Gyökeres. I like Sesko. I like Ivan Ferguson of Brighton, even though his form is poor. I'm not against Ivan Toney while he's not my first choice. I think there's concerns over someone like Osimhen, but I think there's a lot of qualities he could bring to the team. The more I look at that Zertsky brother, there's a lot to like about him. But what Sesko could potentially give Arsenal is a quote-unquote low-risk operation and a blank canvas for Mikel Arteta to work with. You know, for instance, we know for a fact Arsenal are interested in the guy. In fact, we don't, because we've never spoken to Arteta already. But just based on David Ornstein, you know, him who is one of the more credible journalists, has name dropped Benjamin Sesko amongst other strikers or potential strikers Arsenal are looking at. It gives us the chance to quote the Arsene Wenger, the great Arsene Wenger, the legend that is Arsene Wenger, the reason the Emirates is roaring in the sense that it is. Take nothing away from Mikel Arteta. Arsene Wenger has many key quotes, but one of them is, we don't buy superstars, we make them. Now, to say we would have made or could make Sesko wouldn't 100% be true. But in terms of showing his qualities to the world, showcasing his ability, enhancing the things he's good at, working on his weaknesses, and potentially having the stars of tomorrow that really and truly only Manchester City and Real Madrid, player for player, could be, you know, have more of a claim than us. This gives us a chance to do such. I'm convinced on his talent. And obviously, one thing I do like, once again, is the fact of, if we do sign a striker, they're going to be an enhancer rather than the burden of scoring goals is going to be on them, which it really was with Aubameyang. Saka is bagging. Odegaard and Martinelli haven't exactly been clinical, but they have the capacity to do such. Kai Havertz is improving his goal scoring. Trossard is good for it. And hopefully the likes of Declan Rice and everybody else can continue to showcase their talents in the final third. It's obviously inevitable he'll be compared to Erling Haaland due to the clubs they've played for and the positions they play. The man himself has self-awareness. He's key to play down all of those sort of links and carve out his own career as his own man. So again, in truth, Arsenal fans, we don't know who we're going to sign, what sort of profile Arteta wants, etc., etc. But the question marks remain whether Arsenal will sign a striker and what variety of striker that forward will be. Again, I'm sure there's going to be several calculations done internally at Arsenal Football Club. And as us football fans, naturally, the speculation is going to continue as to whether we need a striker, what striker that will be, what age and style of play they'll also have. Will we go for an experienced individual, or we go for a young rising star who could be a world-class forward in his own right, if not today, tomorrow? And again, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know your thoughts, people. Again, it's always a pleasure making these videos and the support has been crazy. Let me know your thoughts. Comment, like, subscribe and all that good stuff. Peace.